Let's dismantle the fairy tale before it breaks your heart again. We need to confront a brutal, silent reality that most women feel intuitively, but refuse to articulate until it is too late. Let's be absolutely honest. It is not your beauty that anchors a man to you. It is not about the proficiency of your intimacy or how good you are in bed, as crushing as that might be to accept for an ego that has been trained to perform. It is not even about the purity of your devotion, your loyalty, or the depth of your care. You can wake up before dawn to make him pancakes. You can sacrifice your own ambitions to support his dreams, and you can twist yourself into a pretzel to become his emotional anchor or virtual therapist. You can do all of this, exhausting yourself in the process, and still, he will leave. He will walk away without looking back, leaving you with a silence so loud it is deafening. Why does this happen? Why does the perfect woman often end up alone? It happens because there is a silent, uncomfortable, and deeply psychological trigger that hardly anyone discusses. Yet it governs the entire architecture of human connection. This trigger changes everything. Without this specific psychological activation, he may like you very much. He may desire you physically. He may even look you in the eye and tell you he loves you. And in that moment, he might even believe it. But he does not feel true love. Not the kind that binds a soul. Not yet. You must be vigilant here, because the moment you grasp the mechanics of this trigger, the chaotic history of your relationships will suddenly align into a clear picture. You will understand why some women seem to effortlessly become the one, while others, perhaps even you, remain just another unresolved, fading chapter in his past. To understand this, we must look through a lens that goes beyond modern dating advice. We must break down this narrative through the eyes of Carl Jung and dive into the shadows where the truth resides. The truth no one tells you. Ask yourself this honestly. Do you operate under the belief that one day you will finally be loved if you just do everything right? Do you believe that if you carve away enough of your edges, if you are understanding enough, present enough, sexy enough, calm yet strong, gentle yet resilient, that the day of reckoning will come, where he looks at you with wide eyes and declares you the love of his life? It sounds logical, doesn't it? It sounds almost fair. It appeals to our sense of justice because you were taught from childhood that love is a meritocracy, something to be earned through good behavior. The script says, just be the best version of yourself. Polish every flaw. And eventually, someone will notice that glow and reward you for it. But here arrives the uncomfortable truth that is painful to digest. Effort does not create love. This is the lie that keeps you trapped on a hamster wheel of emotional labor. You can cook his favorite meal with Michelin star precision. You can laugh at jokes that aren't funny. You can adjust your entire life's rhythm to match his and answer his texts the second they arrive, sacrificing your own free time, and he will still leave. Or perhaps even worse than leaving, he stays. He stays, but he becomes a ghost. He is physically present, occupying space in your home and your bed, but emotionally, he is entirely absent. He tells you beautiful things. He feeds you sweet words, but in reality, you have become interchangeable to him. You are a placeholder. He says he misses you, but his feet do not move. He doesn't take a single step to close the distance. And there you sit, emotionally drained, a shell of the vibrant woman you used to be, asking yourself where you went wrong. You spiral into self-blame, thinking, I ask for too much. I ruin everything. I am the one who is broken and cannot love properly. But no, listen closely. You are not asking for too much. You are simply paying a bill that isn't yours. You have learned to invest love as if you were paying off a massive debt, hoping that once the balance is clear, you will be granted intimacy. You were taught to believe the equation that the more you give, the more he will return. But that is not how the male psyche works. This is not a criticism of men. It is a necessary dissection of reality. It is an insight into the enormous, often ignored canyon that exists between attraction, comfort, and true love. The great mistake, the tragedy of modern relationships, is believing that these three states are connected in a linear progression. They are not. The brutal truth is that love does not arise from comfort. We crave comfort, we build our lives around it, but comfort is the antithesis of the spark that ignites deep male devotion. Real love arises from emotional turmoil, from the sudden, terrifying realization that his ego is being shaken. It activates only when he asks himself a question that strikes fear into his heart. If I lose this woman, who will ever make me feel this way again? This realization has absolutely nothing to do with how much you do for him. It is not about the laundry, the listening, or the favors. It has everything to do with how he feels when he is with you. And even more importantly, the vacuum he feels when you are not there. You can be the most loyal, present, self-sacrificing woman in the world, and he still won't choose you. Not because you aren't enough, you are likely more than enough, but because true love requires an internal movement within him, a psychological shift that no amount of external effort on your part can force. This is the primal wound carried by so many women, giving themselves completely, emptying their cup until it is dry, and still not being chosen. And when he inevitably withdraws, when he distances himself or drops the classic line, "I'm not ready for something serious," your first instinct is a trauma response. You think, "I should have done more." But that is the trap. It is not about doing more. It is about doing less, but doing the right thing. And what is the right thing? It is exactly that which awakens emotional doubt in him. It is the subtle art of creating a sense of loss, even while he still possesses you. It is embodying something that cannot be bought, copied, or replaced, something that money and effort cannot manufacture. Have you ever noticed the irony? Men are statistically more likely to commit to women who do not force love, who do not demand reciprocity, and who do not constantly try to audition for the role of girlfriend by proving they are good enough. This is because true love in a man is not triggered by your servitude or what you do for him. It is triggered by the effect you have on his existence. And here is the shot, the painful realization. Often, it is the woman who has done the absolute most, who has sacrificed the most, whom he leaves behind. Conversely, the one who has done less functionally, but has had a deeper, sharper impact on his soul, is the one he loves. Is it unfair? Absolutely. It defies the logic of justice. But reality becomes all the more painful when women confuse emotional reward with real proof of connection. Women often fall into the cycle of do, waiting for the prize of love at the end of the marathon. But love is not a prize to be won. Love is a connection to be felt, and connection requires something that pure effort can never create. Perceived value. It is of no use to be made of solid gold if he is colorblind to it, if he does not recognize the rarity of the metal before him. And worse, the more you try to prove your worth, the more you cheapen it. The more you audition, the more he feels he can have you without ever having to win you. You lower the price of your own soul. That is the emotional turning point. It is that heartbreaking moment when you realize you are an amazing person. You know this rationally, and yet you feel profoundly alone within the relationship. Then comes the fear, the creeping doubt, the toxic comparison with other women. You start a desperate investigation, trying to figure out what she has that you don't. But the problem was never what you had or didn't have. The problem was that you believed the lie that love must be earned through effort. And when you believe this lie, you inadvertently train him to treat you poorly. You settle for crumbs and tell yourself it is a meal, hoping that someday the feast will come. But the feast never comes. Why would it? He is already getting everything served to him on a silver platter, without having to lift a finger, without having to hunt, without having to invest. Before you sink into shame or blame yourself, you need to understand this emotional logic. It is not a flaw in you. It is a mismatch in understanding human nature. You need to understand that effort, affection, and devotion do not create a real bond. They create comfort. And as we have established, comfort is not love. Comfort is an acquired right, a convenience. It creates a mindset of, I'll stay here in this warm, easy place until something comes along that challenges me more, something that makes me feel alive. Maybe now, as you listen to this, memories are flooding back. You remember that relationship where you gave 110% and got almost nothing in return. Or that man who was incredibly excited at the beginning, the fireworks, the passion, but withdrew the moment you started giving more of yourself. It is not your fault. It is just the reflection of an emotional pattern no one taught you to recognize, a blind spot in our cultural conditioning. But now that you see this pattern, you can no longer pretend to be blind to it. Ignorance is no longer a luxury you can afford. The question that should be keeping you up at night is no longer, why did he leave? But rather a far more potent inquiry. If effort doesn't create love, what does? What is the specific alchemy that makes a man think, I absolutely cannot lose this woman? The answer to this is not just advice. It is a paradigm shift that changes the entire trajectory of your life. We must confront a fundamental misunderstanding between the sexes. Most women operate under the assumption that male love is born from sympathy, desire, or continuous harmony. You believe that if you are pleasant enough, the bond will hold. But the male psyche does not respond to love the way the female psyche does. The root is deeper, darker, and significantly more uncomfortable. Men do not fall in love because of sympathy or convenience. They fall in love because of meaning. A man only begins to construct the edifice of true love when he feels that his very existence makes a tangible difference in your reality. This is where the concept of Heartsync truly comes alive. As long as he feels like just another passenger in your life, a person who pleases, helps, or satisfies you sexually, he can have fun. He can stay for years. He can even commit on paper. But his heart remains a fortress with the gates locked. This isn't because he is incapable of feeling, but because the relationship lacks existential weight. Male love is not a feeling he stumbles into. It is a process of building, and that construction only begins when he feels emotionally significant. He needs to feel not just desired, not just respected, but indispensable, as if a quiet voice in you is saying, with you, the world is different. Only you can occupy this specific space. Here lies the master key, hidden in the psychology of Carl Jung. Jung described the process of individuation, the agonizing, beautiful path by which we become our true selves, as something that requires mirrors. We cannot become ourselves in a vacuum. We need people who do not just look at us, but who mirror back to us who we are at our deepest core. Men do not fall in love with just any woman. They fall in love with the woman who unconsciously reflects the best, most heroic version of themselves back to them. This is not about flattery or ego stroking. It is about identity connection. When a man feels meaningful in your presence, he doesn't just feel powerful. He feels existent. For a brief, intoxicating moment, his restless ego falls silent, and something ancient within him says, "Here, I am finally seen." This is rare, because it requires you to be fully anchored in yourself, not out of neediness, but out of a profound self-awareness that leaves room for him to step in and contribute something unique. Without this emotional movement, he may admire you from a distance. He may like you very much, but he will not go to war for you. A man only fights for what has weight, symbolic, heavy, emotional weight. The tragedy is that so many amazing women fall into the trap of overfunctioning. They show their hand immediately, giving all their interest, all their effort, and all their availability, believing they are proving their readiness for love. But in truth, they are only signaling that the room is full. They are showing that the space for connection is already occupied by their own anxiety and effort. True love needs a void. It needs a space that he is allowed to co-create. This trigger of meaning is not activated by writing him beautiful love letters or grand gestures. It reveals itself in a silent, terrifying feeling. If I leave her life, the architecture of her world changes, because what I bring is not interchangeable. A man who feels emotionally significant behaves like a different species. He thinks about her when she isn't there. He protects. He invests. Neuroscience confirms that this specific experience releases oxytocin, the same powerful bonding hormone that connects a mother to her child. This is how a lasting bond is forged, not through manipulation, but through the biology of meaning. It is about being so connected with your own essence that you effortlessly become his mirror. This has nothing to do with looks, sex, or romantic games, but with depth. However, a warning is necessary here. This depth is terrifying to men who are still boys, men who are trapped in a superficial ego. There are men who want to be desired, but do not want to be seen. They want compliments, not mirrors. When these men feel the weight of significance, they panic. They withdraw, sabotage, or flee. Therefore, the real secret is not just how to make a man love you, but discerning which man is emotionally ready to handle the gravity of significance. If he is ready, it doesn't take much. It takes a look that pierces through his social mask. It takes a conversation that values his feelings rather than just auditing his actions. It takes a decision from you that shows he can leave traces in your life, not just bring material advantages. That is the invisible trigger. And once it is activated, there is no turning back. A man who feels he has a unique place in your life, not as a service provider, an ATM, or a distraction, but as a living, indispensable presence, changes fundamentally. He grows up, he surrenders, he loves. And the strange, beautiful irony is that this depends 0% on your effort and 100% on your awareness. Here, one of the greatest emotional paradoxes of male love reveals itself. A man truly connects only when he feels he is contributing. And he only feels that when you don't desperately need him for survival, yet allow him to be needed for significance. Many brilliant women, smart, loyal, independent, end up with men who see them as a bonus, a garnish on the plate of life, rather than the main course. This creates a silent, screaming pain, because you think, I am independent, I am balanced, I ask for nothing. Why doesn't he value me? The answer lies in the shadow of your independence. You need him for nothing. And as contradictory as it sounds, that unconsciously weakens his feeling of being truly significant to your life. This does not mean you should feign helplessness or play the role of the damsel in distress. That is a game for children. It is about something finer, stronger, and more spiritual. It is about creating an emotional space in which he feels important, not necessary like oxygen, but wanted like art. Not irreplaceable in the practical sense, you can change your own tires, but unique in the spiritual sense. A woman who masters this activates the center of emotional competence in the male brain, where his self-worth fuses with the feeling of being appreciated. But here lies the blind spot. Women who are armored tanks on the outside often unconsciously exclude the man from their story. Men, as much as they might deny it with stoicism, desperately want to be part of a story. They want a role. They want a place. They want meaning. Think of it like a dance. You can dance alone. You have done it often, and you are good at it. But when he steps onto the dance floor, and you refuse to let him lead even for a beat, he cannot feel the music with you. He stands on the edge, awkward, unsure what to do with his hands, feeling useless. But if you yield, not out of weakness, but out of trust, if you let him lead a little, it does not make you smaller. On the contrary, it shows that sharing the load makes the movement stronger. Because a man who feels that his presence is welcome, that his touch changes the rhythm, begins to invest himself fully. Many confuse this creation of space with pampering or self-erasure. That is dead wrong. A woman who creates space does not hollow herself out. She remains whole. She is like a lighthouse, clear, firm, constant, yet she allows the other to be a candle that shines alongside her. She opens a gap in her life, not because she is empty, but because she chooses to let someone of value enter. This is why some women, even those who do not fit the standard beauty mold, find ferocious, loyal love. They intuitively understand this invisible balance. I want to hold up this mirror to you now. How often have you erased yourself in order to be everything to him? How often have you closed yourself off so as not to seem weak, effectively locking him out? How often have you hardened your heart just to survive? It is vital to recognize these patterns, because once, before the world taught you to perform for love, you were a woman who knew her own worth. And what really attracts men emotionally is not how much you do for him, but how much he feels he does for you, and that you receive it with grace. But that only happens if there is space. Space for his actions, his giving, his belonging. Maybe you are reading this and thinking, but I am doing everything right. You are loving, present, loyal, and available. You try your absolute best to understand his moods, his erratic timing, and his crises. Yet, despite this perfection, he seems to be drifting further away. Or, perhaps worse, he has become too comfortable, treating your presence as a mandatory utility, like electricity, rather than a chosen gift. This is where we must uncover the most painful layer of this dynamic. There are small, quiet behaviors, almost invisible to the naked eye, that sabotage the very emotional trigger we are trying to activate. The tragedy is that these attitudes often spring from your deepest love, care, and good intentions, yet they effectively keep him in a zone where he stops investing, stops committing, and stops truly seeing you. The first of these silent killers is the most common: excessive emotional care. You have inadvertently become a 5-star hotel in his life. You offer affection before he has even thought to ask for it. You solve his problems before he even realizes he has them. You send the text before he has a chance to miss you. You are always on, always broadcasting, always proving. But this does not trigger love. It triggers comfort. To him, it feels like stumbling into a luxury suite with a jacuzzi and ocean view, breakfast included, without ever having to put down a credit card. Of course, he likes it. Who wouldn't? But he does not value it. When love feels too much like a service, human beings instinctively switch from building mode to consuming mode. And as we know, male love is not born from consumption. It is born from investment. The second mistake is subtle but corrosive. Constant criticism, disguised as coaching. You want him to be better, more mature, more communicative, more ambitious. Because he isn't there yet, you try to guide him. Maybe you do it gently, but over time, he stops listening. Why? Because no matter how noble your intentions, he feels belittled. He doesn't hear, "I believe in you." He hears, "You are not enough." When a man feels small in your presence, his masculinity is wounded, and he will withdraw to protect what little ego he has left. Love cannot grow in a courtroom. It does not grow out of the fear of making mistakes, but out of the freedom to be. A man only connects deeply when he feels, "I can be vulnerable here, I can be imperfect, and I will still be appreciated." The third mistake is the most destructive of all, the energy of replaceability. This happens when you unconsciously signal that he is just one of the guys, just another man among many. Perhaps you say things like, "All men are the same," or you compare him to ex-partners or friends. When he feels that you are with him simply because he happened to be the one standing there, not because he is unique, he closes off. A man truly falls in love only when he feels he holds an irreplaceable, sacred seat at your table. If he feels generic, he will give you a generic relationship. If he feels he can be replaced at any moment, he will build a wall of emotional distance to survive the inevitable rejection. These three behaviors create an atmosphere where he feels unnecessary and unsafe to love. It is cruel, because it comes from your desire to save the relationship. But you must stop trying to be the savior, the mother, or the manager. Male love needs space. Space to mess up. Space to choose. Space to feel the terrifying thought, "If I don't make an effort, I will lose her." You suffocate this mystery when you fill every silence. Winning you must be a decision he makes every day, not an accident he stumbled into. So how do you know if he has made that decision? How do you distinguish between a man who is just consuming your light and a man who is reflecting it? You don't have to force him to see you. You only have to observe, if he already does. True love is not about persuasion. It is about recognition. It is simple, but powerful. Does he understand that among the billions of people on this planet, you carry something no one else has? The answer is in the micro moments. Look at how he deals with your pain. This is the ultimate test. A man who sees you as unique does not belittle your sadness. He does not call you dramatic. He does not act inconvenienced by your vulnerability. He holds your pain as if it were his own, even if he doesn't fully understand the language it speaks. When he makes mistakes, and he will, he doesn't try to gaslight you or gloss over them. He tries to repair the breach. He treats the relationship as a sanctuary, not a convenience. If you are constantly explaining your worth, justifying your feelings, or bending yourself into small shapes just to fit into the cracks of his life, then he does not see you. And more importantly, he does not deserve the opportunity to see you. Stop asking, "Will he choose me?" And start asking, "Does this man see me as unique or just as an option?" You can give your entire soul to someone and still be treated as nothing more than emotional entertainment. In the end, the choice is not his. It is yours. You decide today whether to keep auditioning for a role that was never yours, or to walk off the stage and wait for the person who already knows the script. A woman who knows she is unique does not make noise to be noticed. She becomes unforgettable through the quiet, terrifying power of her own presence. If this truth has pierced your armor today, if you felt a shiver of recognition, and you want to walk further on this path where love is not a game, but applied self-knowledge, then take the next step with us. Subscribe to the channel. Join this community of women who are done with the lies. Here, we speak what the world hides, but what your heart has always known. Write in the comments, "I am whole, but open." Let that be your declaration. Let the healing begin.